Okay, I see a little red button up there.
Yes, yes, yes. Those of us in the business know what the little red button means.
It's
You're on.
showtime.
You're on.
You.
Anyway, thank you, Suzanne Corbett, on behalf of the St. Louis Press Club for participating in this series that we've put together for the Hour in the Now series. Today is July 8th, 2020, and welcome. Would you please identify yourself and your profession?
I'm Suzanne Corbett. I am a food, wine, and travel writer with an affection for food history and culture and how that all mixes together into a delicious ragu.
Wow, I'm hungry.
It should be. It's
I'll have to eat a little later.
past lunchtime.
Well, because of everything you just mentioned, I thought it was particularly important that we talk to you in the context of COVID, because of travel, because of food, all those obvious things that maybe are now, maybe the ragus are more in the house than they are outside, but I'm going to leave that to you to tell us, because we want your experiences, your impressions, your feelings about the world as a communicator in the context of all this.
Well, in context as a professional communicator, I always go back to my grounding as a food professional, because that's where I really began, was cooking and teaching cooking and involving my communication skills as related to food, foodways, and history. And I think it's very interesting in the world we're living in now, where people are talking about the new normal. I find it rather interesting that nothing is really that new normal. We've kind of returned to the old school ways of gathering around the hearth, and entertaining at home, which I think you're going to see an influx of that, and an appreciation of dinner parties again, with all the fineries that go along with that. It's getting back to the basics, embracing those culinary arts and those cultures and those traditions that make one feel good.
So if I may assume, this is a jumping off point to say that this allows you still to be prolific in your writing talking about this.
Yes, it does, because I think more people are wanting to know the way it used to be, those old ways, those traditions that are kind of disappearing. And if we don't preserve them, and places like the Southern Foodways Alliance that is down on the campus of Mississippi, Ole Miss, down in Oxford, they have an extensive collection and research project where they are documenting stories of cooks and restaurateurs and recording their techniques and their unique contributions to their community on how just Inender reacts. It's opening up a lot of new byways for me to travel down.
You're well connected in the community. You have been a media professional for a very long time. What do you hear on the street, so to speak, with regard to, well, one, as other media communicators are talking to you, but also about the food industry and the travel industry?
There's a lot of concern. There are concerns with whether or not some of the smaller sites that you might travel to will survive. Many of these places, particularly the historical sites, are always struggling with funding. So I feel that as a communicator, it's my job to tell their story, to help preserve their sites through allowing their story to be told to a different group of people. Because expansion and marketing, and as we know now that with many of the platforms that communicators earn our livelihoods with papers and magazines, the advertising bases have been dwindled and cut, and therefore the content is shrinking. And there's a lot of stories that could be told or need to be told are at risk of not being told.
Mhm. And that's a severe, this is one of the things that have happened, one of the things that has happened to create a lot of fear, I think, in terms of how we will write, how we will communicate. Do you see some platforms that you will be using more now as a result of what has happened during COVID with the lack of advertising or less advertising?
Well, we're right on Zoom today, so this is
Yes.
one great platform. I think it's an ever-changing world, but I feel people are going to embrace more of the traditional aspects. It may not be a book that you're hanging on to, but it'll be a book that is online that you can use. But I see more and more video and text merging together to be able to present that story out. I actually think it's a great opportunity today that allows us to step back and pause and reassess where we were, where we are, and do we really want to go down the path that we were on, that we thought was good? That there's a lot of different side roads that we can take. And I'm an optimist. My career started as a cook. I started teaching and catering, and that moved myself into food writing, and then that moved into foodways interpretation, and then media production. So I'm very accustomed to the old cliche of, if you close the window, there's going to be another window to open. Well, if their window doesn't open up, I go and look for a crack in the wall and push it apart and move through, because there's always opportunity. It just have to be tenacious enough and persevere to find them.
Yeah, just as you said, persevere, I was thinking, here's a woman with a lot of perseverance. We know that. There's a lot of myth and romance associated with the old ways of media.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. But I think that many times the old ways are misunderstood, and it can be off-putting for particularly some of the younger proteges that are coming in to our profession. And I think there's a middle road that you can take from the old, take from the new, and shake it up in a box and have something completely unique and exciting to present to your reader, your listener.
Yeah, it's I'm sorry, I jumped on your word. What was the last thing you said?
To your public, your viewer, your listener, your reader.
Thank you. I guess in the parlance of the day, it's the mashup, it's convergence, it's those things.
That's it. Well, that's true. It's sort of like a recipe for a mashed potato. You can peel it, or you can leave it with the skin on. You can mash it or smash it or puree it until it's smooth. There's a lot of options that are out there. Yeah. And the bottom line, it's all going to be good, providing you add enough salt.
So speaking of recipes, what seems to be the popular thing that is catching your eye as a communicator, as a chef, as a cook in these days?
Well, once again, it's a return to the old ways, food ways. It's what we call them within the trade of interpretive work. It's rediscovering how grandma made that loaf of bread. I still think that there's a shortage of bread flour on the shelves left from it when everybody was locked down and shut in. It's appreciating the fact that you can actually make a beautiful apple pie or make a great stew. And it's a comforting thing to bring people around together for conversation. And I think that's something that's going to spur a lot of new relationships, will feed a lot of preservation of what there was so we can maintain it for the future. So it's coming back. That's what I see within the culinary world and how that just springs forward, because it's really connects to everything, because we all eat. We all have that connection. We all have something that we embrace. And that's a very balancing approach to bridge a lot of the challenges that we have out there now. Culturally, it can bring the divide together.
Very hopeful point of hope. Do you find now we're getting along just great here in Zoom. I feel it's nice. I haven't seen you in a while. It's nice to see you. But in your work, do you find it's confining not to be in person with someone, especially with the types of topics you cover?
Sometimes it is. But being a historian by nature, we kind of crawl into our little cave with our books and our research materials, and we're really good with correspondence, and I'm excellent with the telephone.
Still, yes.
I mean, it's all in connecting and getting the information, no matter how it is. And many times, going back to those old ways again, that's when you discover a lot of things that have been hidden. So,
like your
really
landline.
at all.
So, what do you foresee for 6 months, a year down the path in terms of your work? How do you see that moving forward?
Hopefully my work, like everybody else's work, will improve with everything opening back up again. But I'm hopeful that, just not with my work, that everyone wants to be entertained. They want to be informed. It's a comforting thing. It's a way to connect, particularly those people who are by themselves. It is their link to community, to society. So I don't, did that answer that question?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's sincere. It is, yes, it answered the question. Is there anything else when we were in touch with you? Again, this was with regard to how life has been for you as a communicator in the context of COVID-19. Is there anything else I didn't ask that of you that you would like to say?
Keep on keeping on. You can't give up. You can't let challenges conquer your soul. You have to take, at least in my opinion, when you're dealt a challenge, it's the best way to move forward is to look at it and just push forward. It is once again, there is opportunity there. Sometimes you can't see it. A lot of times I don't see it. And I have to go out and walk around and just try to get re-inspired. But I think finding that inspiration, finding your soul, which is all about the passion that feeds your soul. And I think when you're quarantined or you're locked down or you're limited in scope of what your society once was, it allows you a wonderful opportunity to connect with yourself. And when you can reconnect with yourself, have a little bit more self-discovery, who knows what wonderful things you'll discover in yourself that then you can bring forward and blossom.
These are lovely silver linings of which you speak. Thank you very much, Suzanne Corbett. Thank you on behalf of the St. Louis Press Club. It's been wonderful breaking bread with you.
Anytime, and I'll bring the butter.
Thank you.
Thank you.